Hello guys, welcome to our class for today, and that is actualization of body measurement on fabric. Now before this time we've done our basic bodies measurement, but we actually want to explain how to interpret those bodies measurement on a fabric. And then I'm sparing out the three different methods of fabric folding first. You might wonder, why are we talking about fabric folding? There is no way you can actualize measurements, right, without first of all understanding how you can actually fold the measurement. Because when it comes to fashion designing, right, most of the measurements that you're going to be taking would either be divided by 2 or by 4. Most of those measurements that you're going to be taking would either be divided by 2 or by 4. And how you place your measurement when your fabric is on a fold that is divided by 2 is actually going to be different from the way you place your measurement when it is on a fold of 4 or when it's divided by 4, right? The same thing is applicable to when it is not folded or when it's placed on a flat surface. So that is why we have to go through the process of fabric folding first before we talk about how we can actualize those body measurements. First, we have the landscape mode of folding. When you fold it in width, take for instance, this is my fabric, right? If I'm holding this fabric this way, this is referred to as the landscape, right? The width of your fabric. If I'm folding it widthwise and I do this, right, I've succeeded in folding this fabric into 2. But if I am holding the fabric this way and I fold it this way, right, this is the portrait mode of folding, the way it's going. Now this point here is what we refer to as the salvage end or the salvage line. This is going to be referred to as the top part of your fabric or the starting point of your fabric. This becomes the length. This is the salvage, and this is the folding. This is the top part or the starting point, the salvage, the hem, and then the folded end. When you fold it in bias, this is what it means by folding in bias. Now your fabric is neither folded in a landscape form nor a portrait form, or rather it is folded from one edge to another edge, giving it this triangular shape. See the way it is, portrait or the landscape, but it's folded in a triangular form. So this is referred to as bias mode of folding or bias method of folding. Your fabric is shorter from the other end and longer from the folded end. So this is referred to as the salvage line. This of course would be your hem line, and this would be your starting point. So this is exactly what we have here. So now we move from the method of folding to how to actualize our basic bodies measurement. Alright, take for instance that this is your fabric. I want to take my body measurement, and the measurements that I'm using is, alright, looking at the board here, right, this is our dress measurement chart. This particular measurement chart is for dressmaking, right? That's why you're seeing this measurement arranged in a way that it should be, without you seeing any other different body part like the crotch, because there is a measurement for skate that different from the measurement for a pant, different from the measurement of a dress, right? So but this particular one is for a dress measurement. So we have the vertical measurement, and then we have the horizontal measurement. Then we say that vertical measurement most times can be divided by 2, and we see shoulder to be part of that measurement. It could either be a vertical measurement or an horizontal measurement. Because it can be divided, that means it is partly a vertical measurement and partly an horizontal measurement. Because looking at the flow here, you hardly see any of this vertical measurement being divided by anything except for a shoulder measurement. Now you have shoulder to chest measurement, right, to be 5 inches. You have shoulder measurement to be 15 inches. Divided by 2 is going to give you 7.5, because we said when we were taking our basic bodice measurement that you must divide your shoulder measurement by 2. So that is why you have shoulder divided by 2 gives you 7.5, which was 15. The vertical and the horizontal measurement. So we go to the horizontal measurement and we say that you divide your answer by 4, right? Divide your whole number by 4. Say we have bust, the round bust, that's the circumference of the bust, to be 38 inches. 38 divided by 4 is going to give you 9.5, right? So this is going to be a quarter. Horizontal measurement on the bodies has to do with the quarter or the half, okay, or the full circumference, okay. You can divide it by 2, you can divide it by 4, you can also divide it by 3, depending on whatsoever you're trying to create, okay, or what outfit you're trying to create. So we have the round bust, or the bust circumference, to be 38 inches. Divided by 4 will give you 9.5. And then we have the round under bust, right, referred to as the RUB. These are the short acronyms given to all this grammar. We have, it flows from the higher number to the lower number, right? But when it got to the hip, because this particular person's body shape is a pear body shape and not an hourglass, so the hip appears to be the number that is higher than every other measurement. So the hip is now the widest point of this person's body, right? The hip is the widest point of this person's body. So now how do you draft this kind of measurement on a fabric or a pattern paper or any flat surface? Let's go to our fabric now. A starting line. And that starting line, in most cases, is assumed to be the shoulder line. This is where you would take your shoulder measurement. So let's say from the distance from this 0 point to this point is the 7.5 inches. So you know that this is where you would mark that your shoulder measurement divided by 2, which was 7.5 inches. So you mark it on top here at this point, 7.5 inches. And then the next point that you want to do, or you want to take note on your fabric, is the shoulder to your chest point, which you actually took as your body measurement. So what do you then do? You come here and then you mark your shoulder to your chest point. And then the next line that you are supposed to mark, know that we're dealing with the vertical measurements now, is the vertical measurement that will give you a guide on marking your horizontal measurement. The vertical measurement are the lines that you would need, while the horizontal measurement are the actual body measurement that you would fix together to form the shape. So let's mark our vertical line. The first vertical line is shoulder to the shoulder measurement. The second vertical line is shoulder to chest. The third vertical line is shoulder to bust point, and this is shoulder to bust point. In most cases, we have gone through the formula over and over again, and we discover that most times the distance between your bust point and your shoulder point is always 2 inches away from each other. The chest line is higher than the bust line with 2 inches, right? With just 2 inches. Most cases 2.5, depending on how busty or how petite the person is. So the next vertical line that we have here is shoulder to under bust, which I would be forced to erase this because it has to come a little bit downward from where we have our bust point. So we're going to label it. This is the CH, which represents the chest line, all right, and this is the BP, which represents the bust point, and then we have the UB, which represents the under bust, and then the next line is the waist line, right? We have the WL, which is the waist line, and then the next thing that we will have here would be our hip depth, okay? And then because our body is not that big, I cannot actually get our knee point, right? But let's make it a half scale body that stopped at the hip point, and then you will get to understand the other ones, right? This is the first class on actualization of body measurements. The next one that we're actually going to do would be on the actual fabric. So now we've established this fact, right? This is the salvage of your fabric, like I indicated. The salvage, the hem. So you have your hip depth, or you call it your hip point, and then we would assume that the next one is the shoulder to the knee, which is very important. Or let's take our hip point as the full length. We say your chest line is 5 inches. It doesn't need any division, meaning from this distance to this distance is 5 inches, right? So it doesn't need any division whatsoever. Then another factor you have to consider is that you can also mark your bust point measurement. That is your bust circumference divided by 4. You can choose to mark it on your chest line point or your bust line point. So now what you do is, the basic formula is for you to get your shoulder slant measuring. So now we come down here at either half of an inch or 1 inch. You come down from your shoulder point divided by 2 by half of an inch or 1 inch. And so this is my half inch. This is where it registers. At this corner of your fabric, there is what we call neck measurement, right? Which we actually spell out. There is no garment without a neck, because you're not going to wear it without a neck. As far as your body has a neck, your measurement has to duplicate that particular body part, all right? And then we have this point here to be our neck, so width, right? And then here to be our neck depth. The wideness is referred to the neck width. The length is referred to the neck depth. So let's say that our neck width 3 inches, and then our neck depth 2 inches, right? So we come here and we mark 3 inches here, and we mark 2 inches here. All you have to do is to just mark those points and keep it pending. So you connect it with your curve like so, and then you have your neck curve, right? This is the width and this is your depth, neck depth. What you're going to do is, for you to get your shoulder slant, you come down like this, okay, to where you have your half inches. Remember, you marked half of an inch away from where your shoulder measurement stopped. You marked half of an inch downward, right, to achieve your shoulder slope. So now what you do is connect that shoulder slope to your neck width point. Connect the shoulder slope to your neck width point, all right? And then the next thing is for you to take your body of horizontal measurement. We say your bust circumference is 38 divided by 4 will give us 9.5. Let's say that this is our bust point, and this is where we have our 9.5, right? This is where our 9.5 stops. And then before you do that, there is what we call a perfect square when you are marking your body's measurement, meaning your shoulder point and your chest line should align together for you to be able to get a perfect armhole. Whether your cloth is going to have a sleeve or not, you must consider what we call armhole measurement. So what you do is measure your shoulder measurement divided by 2, again on your bust point line or your chest point line. Once you do that, you come here and you register where the 7.5 is. Connect it with a straight line like so, and that is going to give you your armhole straight line, because you need the straight line before you can think of a curved line. So let's say, for instance, this is our chest line, and now I want to establish my armhole curve. What I would do is measure the distance between this and this, all right? Measure the distance between this point to this point. Wherever you have the midpoint line, you mark, and that is the midpoint, all right? And I want to establish my armhole curve now. What you do is come out from this midpoint by either 0.75 or 0.5, right? Depending on how big or how small you are. So this is my 0.5. All I want to do is to create my armhole curve. So I'm going to connect from my shoulder slope point like so, right? I'm going to connect the curve to where I have my half inch registered like so, and I'm going to connect it all the way to where my bust measurement divided by 4 is. You can see that I've been able to create that curve with using my free hand. I started from my shoulder slope point. I marked half of an inch out from the midpoint of this perfect square, and then I indicated that. All right, so this is where your bust measurement divided by 4 is being marked. And the reason why you're establishing this marking is because you want to connect your armhole curve to the right place, right? Now, the next thing you're going to do is to take your bust round measurement, right? Round bust measurement, which was 38 inches. What you're going to do is 38 divided by 4 gives you 9.5. You come here and you mark your 9.5. It's exactly the same thing as you marked on your chest line. And it's actually not compulsory that you mark on two spots, but just to re-establish the marking, you can go ahead and mark on both points, right? Next thing is your underbust. Your underbust is actually or usually smaller than your bust point. So in this case, we had 33 inches as our round underbust measurement. So divided by 4 is going to give you 8.25. And this is where you're going to mark your 8.25. 1.5 inches smaller than your bust point measurement when divided by 4. Now the next one you're going to do is to mark your waistline measurement. Your waist is the waist measurement that we're using here is 35 inches. 35 divided by 4 gives you 8.75, a little bit away, about 0.25 bigger than your round under bust measurement divided by 4. Now if this was to be our hip line, which is pretty too close to the waistline and it cannot work, but would assume that this was to be our hip line, what you also do is to measure your round hip measurement and then mark it wherever you want it to be, like so. Now let's see how we can connect all these dots together, because as a beginner you need to understand how it is. And remember, we said the major aim as a fashion designer is to bring out the idea to a visible form, right? Now you connect from your bust point to your under bust point, like so. All right, and then you connect from your under bust point to your waist point, like so. And you can see that the human shape is already forming out. And if this was to be our that would be our hip point, is too far away, but you could still make it this point here, and then you connect it like so. The aim is to just give it that hip curve, though it's pretty much close to the waistline and it shouldn't be that way, but let's assume this is our hip point. Remember that you will take your knee point measurement, you will take your full length measurement, and if this board was that big enough, we would have done that. But just know that if you're making a lengthy dress, right, that is going to touch the ground, what you want to do is go ahead and mark your knee point where you measured, all right, and which is 38 inches from your shoulder point or your starting line. Mark 38 inches from your shoulder line. Mark 58 inches as ankle point. From your shoulder line, mark 62 inches as your full length. And then you draw out your horizontal lines and you put in your circumferences divided by 4, you mark them out. Another thing you want to do as a beginner, because you're not too sure of what mistakes you might commit or might make as you progress, what you want to do is go ahead and add seam allowances to your pattern blocks or your fabrics, because you're not going to stitch exactly on your body's measurement. Apparently it's going to change the size and it would not fit shape. So what you're going to do is put your seam measurement, right, your seam allowance. So what we're going to do is straight out the horizontal lines, like so. You can pretty much do this before you start connecting your lines. All right, now take for instance that says that your body scale is like this, right? Now we're marking a full body scale, which is definitely going to have a dot. Wherever you hear that on outfit, you can choose to eliminate the dot at the end of the day, or just make it reflect on your outfit. How do you get your dart? It's very simple, right? The distance between your one bust point to another bust point, right? Let's say this is my nipple point and this is the other side of my nipple point. Now that measurement is basically the distance from this bust point. Say for instance this is 7 inches, right? That means my 7 inches, what you're going to, for you to get your dart, you're going to divide your 7 inches by 2, and that will give you 3.5. So this 3.5 is your dart measurement or your dart length, right? What you're going to do is, where do you start imputing your dart? If you want, you don't want your bust to be pointy at the end of the day, except maybe you're making a princess dart bustier. But when you're making just a regular body dart, you want to come down from your bust point by 1 inch like so. On your bust point like this, rather, mark 3.5 inches inward, mark 3.5 inches, go to your waistline, mark 3.5 inches, right? If you want your dart to extend to your hip point, you do the same thing on your hip point. But if you don't want it to get to that point, you stop at your waistline. Connect, when you're done marking, come down by 1 inch, what we did here, right? When you come down by 1 inch, connect the straight lines together like so, right? Connect the straight lines together like so. Then how do you get your bust that span or extension? Come here, mark half of an inch to the right, half of an inch to the left. When you are making a bustier dress or a princess dart bustier, or because this is just a regular dart, you don't need to mark anything on your underbust. What you do is, when you're done marking your waistline, just connect it with a slant line like so to your half inch here. Connect this to your half inch. Okay, so now the trick here is, if you go ahead to add your sewing allowance just like that, and then you cut it out, when you're done eliminating this dart or sewing in this dart, it's still going to be smaller than your actual size. Trust me, because the exact 1 inch sewing allowance that you gave here is what you're taking out here as your dart. So what you want to do is, go ahead and mark your basic bodies divided by 4. And when you're done with that, take in your dart, right? Mark your 3.5 inches or your 3 inches or your 4 inches away from your starting point or your folded edge of your fabric, right? When you're done with that, just create your dart. Create your dart first before you think of adding your seam allowance. What you're going to do is, when you're done taking your basic bodies divided by 4 like this, your body's measurement, or horizontal bodies measurement divided by 4, and you mark them and you trace it out like this, what you want to do is add your dart measurement. If it's half inch here, replace the half inch. If it is 1 inch here, replace the 1 inch. When you're done doing that, go ahead and mark your sewing allowance on the shoulder, mark it on your bust point, mark it on your underbust, mark it on your waistline, and then connect using the sewing allowance, not the dart line, sewing allowance. What you've actually done is giving more room at where you took them out, right? And then still balancing your measurement. And with that, you're going to have a beautiful bodice block. And with this particular pattern here, you can basically, cut any type of clothes that you want to cut. You can manipulate any type of outfit you want to manipulate. And this is the front block, right? So let's see what is the difference with the back block. All right, now looking at this block now, you can notice that there is a change. This line was just added, and then look at the armhole. It comes out, and then look at the neckline. These are the only differences with the back block and the front block. What you're going to do is introduce a fresh paper, right? Take the same measurement that you did for the front, okay? And then you can as well go ahead and trace this out on a fresh paper. Then what I want you to take note of is the front armhole line, right? The the armhole is pushed inwards by half of an inch or 0.75 inches, or inch rather. But for the back armhole, it goes exactly on your perfect straight line or perfect box line, all the way to where you have your bust divided by 4. And then it's just with this zipper allowance extension, your neckline lifting, and your armhole extension too. Now for the front neckline, for the front armhole rather, you go ahead, but for the zipper allowance, you want to do your zipper bulge elimination, where you come in or you go out from here by 1 inch. And then you come, this is going to be 1.5 at this point here. So what you do is blend this to this. So you end up eliminating this to avoid zip bulging. Okay, this is to help you avoid zip bulging. This is all for your zip contouring. Then for your back dart line, they are usually longer than the front dart line. So let's say this is your back dart line. Is actually going to be very long up to this point, but for your front dart line, it could stop on your waistline. Your front dart line could be maybe 4 inches, and your back dart line could be like 6 inches, 2 inches bigger than each other. So this is the whole of what you would have, all right, for your basic, all right, bodies block. This is how you actualize your basic bodice measurement on a fabric or a piece of paper to make it visible. You can see that automatically this is the shape of a human body, right? Slimmer at the underbust point, and then it extends out to the waistline, and this is all you have. So should, in case someone tells you to mark your to draft your basic bodice block, this is what you're supposed to do, right? So when we go over to how you can get your princess butt, that uh your bustier, we're going to work with this, and you see how we manipulate it.